Wow, stories.
Am I the idiot for filing a restraining order against my husband after he accused me of killing his sister? My 30-year-old female husband, Luke, 33-year-old male, had a sister, Laura, 29-year-old female. We were all close and saw each other 2-3 times a month, along with their parents. Almost 6 months ago, Laura fell down the stairs at their family home and died. It was a freak accident. There's a window on the half landing and she hit her head on the sill. I was the last person to see her. I was there for less than 10 minutes and she was in her pajamas making coffee. I didn't even stay for a drink, and I struggle with how such a brief and meaningless interaction could have been her last. She deserved so much more. My husband and I have only been married for a year, but we've been together for 4 and have known each other for more than 20 years. When Laura's parents found her, they called my husband right away, and we rushed over. We faced the whole thing as a family. In the days after, Luke started quizzing me about exactly what we talked about, what she was wearing, where we were standing, etc. It progressed to him saying I was providing conflicting information. On tiny details he was deliberately misunderstanding and accusing me of withholding information because I couldn't tell him things like what pajamas she was wearing. This escalated quickly, but lasted for less than a week, as I lost my cool and made it clear that I was done answering questions. He didn't bring it up again, and I wrote it off as a grief quirk. His behavior was generally that of a normal, grieving person. Last Friday, he outright accused me of unaliving her in front of his parents, out of the blue. We were all stunned. There was an inquest which recently concluded, and there was never any doubt the verdict would be accidental death. He said it was completely obvious, and he couldn't believe that no one else could see it. He claims I went through his phone and found his messages with Laura. I have absolutely no idea what messages he's talking about. I have never looked at his phone, and that I went over to confront her, and things got out of hand, and I pushed her downstairs. By the end, he was shouting about going to the police and getting the inquest overturned and how I wasn't going to get away with it. Let me be clear. Laura and I had a great relationship. We all did. I have no idea where this has come from other than these messages I haven't seen. And even then, I don't think there's anything I could ever see on someone's phone that would drive me to unalive. It's just ridiculous. He's been with his parents since this happened and will not talk to me at all. I've had some contact with his mom, but she's not being very communicative. The last I heard, she didn't know what messages he was referring to either. I am still completely stunned and I have no idea how to proceed. I made a commitment to be there for him always. And I understand that grief can manifest in strange ways, but part of me feels like my love for him died the second he called me a unaliver. And I don't know how we could possibly work through this. I also really don't want to be thought of in this way, and I have no idea if he has said anything to people we know. I obviously haven't. A brain tumor or psychotic break has crossed my mind, and I suggested it to his mother, and she just said she'll talk to him. Other than the questions before, he hasn't been acting odd. Obviously, he's been grieving, but he's seemed sane and sensible other than this. I feel like I'm going mad. Does anyone have any advice at all? To add, it has come to my attention that I accidentally used Laura's real name once in this post. Can I kindly ask that anyone who commented "who is" real name delete their comment, as I really don't want this to bleed into my real life, for obvious reasons. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You need to get a lawyer to protect yourself in case he does go to the police. I would write down everything that you can remember that happened that day and keep it just in case. He may be having a psychotic break. As stated, don't talk to him or his immediate family or your friends without someone present, or preferably by text or email. Save everything. You need to take his accusations seriously and cover your backside. Comment 2. Protect yourself. Never meet him alone. Record every interaction you have with him, and try to see what kind of texts those are. Something fishy is there. And above all this, if the love is gone, the trust will be too. You can't recover from this. Divorce him. Even if something like grief trauma, this doesn't mean he has to accuse you of being an unaliver. Now for the update. Thanks for all the comments from my last post. After Luke accused me of unaliving Laura, things went downhill fast. I tried to reach out to him multiple times, but he wouldn't answer my calls or texts. His parents were also avoiding me, which made everything even more confusing and painful. I decided to give them some space, hoping that time would help them see reason. But things didn't get better. They got worse. About a week after the accusation, I received a call from the police. Luke had gone to them with his suspicions. They asked me to come in for questioning. I was terrified, but knew I had nothing to hide. I explained everything to them, just as I had to Luke and his parents. They were polite but thorough, and I could tell they were taking Luke's claims seriously. They even asked to see my phone, which I handed over without hesitation. After a few hours, they let me go, but the experience left me shaken. I decided to stay with my friend Sarah for a while. She was incredibly supportive and helped me get through those first few days. But then, something unexpected happened. While I was at Sarah's, I got a message from Luke's mom. She said she wanted to meet and talk. I was hesitant, but agreed, hoping it might be a chance to clear things up. When we met, she seemed different, more distant and cold. She told me that Luke had found some old messages between Laura and me on an old phone of his. He had somehow convinced himself that these messages were proof of a fight between Laura and me. I was baffled because I couldn't remember any such messages. She showed me the phone, and there they were. Messages from months ago where Laura and I had a minor disagreement about something trivial. I tried to explain that it was just a normal sibling-in-law spat, but she wasn't convinced. She said Luke was adamant that this was the motive for the murder. I left the meeting feeling more isolated than ever. Even Luke's mom, who had always been like a second mother to me, seemed to be turning against me. I decided to go back to our house to gather some of my things. When I got there, I found that Luke had changed the locks. I was locked out of my own home. I called a locksmith to get in, but when I entered, I found that Luke had taken most of his things and left a note saying he was filing for divorce. I was devastated. I called my lawyer to discuss my options. She advised me to document everything and to be prepared for a tough legal battle. I couldn't believe it had come to this. I felt like I was living in a nightmare. A few days later, I got a call from the police again. They wanted to search the house for any evidence related to Laura's death. I agreed, knowing I had nothing to hide. They went through everything, even taking some of my personal items for further examination. It was humiliating and invasive, but I cooperated fully. During this time, I started to notice some strange things. I found a hidden camera in the living room, something I'd never seen before. It was well hidden, and I had no idea how long it had been there or who had put it there. I reported it to the police, but they seemed more interested in my potential involvement in Laura's death than in the camera. As the days went by, I started to piece together a disturbing picture. Luke had been acting strangely for months, even before Laura's death. He had become more secretive and paranoid. I remembered an incident a few months ago when he had accused me of cheating on him out of the blue. At the time, I had brushed it off as stress from work, but now it seemed like part of a larger pattern. I decided to do some digging of my own. I went through our old emails and found some messages from Luke to a private investigator. He had hired someone to follow me and gather information on me. I felt violated and betrayed. It was clear that Luke had been building a case against me for months, long before Laura's death. I took this information to my lawyer, who advised me to file a restraining order against Luke. She also suggested that we counter his divorce filing with evidence of his erratic behavior. I agreed, but it felt like a hollow victory. My marriage was over and my life was in shambles. The police eventually cleared me of any involvement in Laura's death, but the damage was done. My reputation was tarnished, and I had lost my husband and his family. I tried to reach out to Luke one last time, hoping to find some closure, but he refused to see me. He was convinced of my guilt, and nothing I said could change his mind. In the end, I moved out of our house and into a small apartment. I started seeing a therapist to help me deal with the trauma of the past few months. It's been a long and painful journey, but I'm slowly starting to rebuild my life. I still think about Laura every day and wonder how things could have been different. But for now, all I can do is move forward and try to find some semblance of peace.